You know that feeling when you instantly click on a specific ad while completely ignoring another? It feels like a conscious choice, right? Well, it turns out it's actually lightning fast biology. It takes the human brain a mere 13 milliseconds to process color. I mean, that is literally faster than you can blink. Before you even realize what you're looking at, your visual cortex has already categorized the color and triggered an emotional response. It's rapid, preconscious neuroscience at work. So, welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely pumped you're here today because we're diving into something that often feels like magic, but is actually hard science. We're going to demystify how color acts as a direct line to our nervous system and exactly how it drives user behavior. By the time we wrap up, you won't just look at colors differently. You'll know precisely how to leverage them to get real results. Here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. The neuroscience of color. 2. The emotional color palette. 3. Context, culture, and audiences. 4. Conversions and platform rules. And finally, 5. Accessibility and future trends. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the neuroscience of color. Get a load of this staggering reality. Up to 90% of a consumer's initial assessment of a product and their subsequent decision to actually buy it is based on color alone. Think about that. Color doesn't just make your design look pretty, it's literally the fundamental driver of perception. So what is the biological why behind that 90%? It's fascinating, really. Color doesn't just enter your eye and sit in your brain. It physically alters your state. Warm colors, like red and orange, activate your amygdala and your sympathetic nervous system. They literally increase your heart rate and trigger a mild fight or flight response. Cool colors, on the other hand, like blue and green, do the exact opposite. They fire up your parasympathetic nervous system, physically calming you down and promoting feelings of trust and stability. Now, how does this biology actually translate to business? Take a look at a recent case study from a fintech startup. They were using a green call to action button, which seems like a safe bet, right? Green means go. But when they swapped that button out for a deep navy blue, their conversions shot up by 23%. Why? Because when it comes to financial decisions, that casual green just failed to provide the necessary psychological comfort. The navy blue successfully communicated stability and trust right to the user's parasympathetic nervous system. Moving right along to Section 2, the emotional color palette. Let's do a rapid-fire run through the spectrum. Red triggers urgency and passion. It's basically the emergency brake of colors, which is exactly why fast food chains love it to stimulate appetite and speed. Orange blends energy with optimism, making it an absolute powerhouse for e-commerce sales. Yellow releases serotonin, grabbing your attention and projecting pure happiness. Green gives our eyes a literal rest, signaling nature and growth, which is perfect for wellness brands. And purple, which was historically super expensive to produce, is still our go-to trigger for luxury and creativity. Okay, time to bust a massive marketing myth. We've been told for decades that pink is the universally loved color for marketing to women. Yeah, that is entirely false. Only a tiny percentage of women actually choose pink as their favorite color. When you look at universal preference across both men and women, blue absolutely rules across the board. So if you're defaulting to pink just based on gender, you're kind of ignoring the data. Which brings us to Section 3, context, culture, and audiences. Let's talk about visual context first. Have you heard of the isolation effect? It's also known as the von Restorff effect. It basically states that an item that stands out like a sore thumb is the one we're going to remember and interact with. This proves that visual contrast and hierarchy on your page are actually way more important for driving conversions than the specific isolated hue you pick. I mean, if your whole site is green, a green button is practically invisible no matter what the psychology of green says. Then there's cultural context. If you're running international campaigns, you have got to account for cultural programming. In Western cultures, white symbolizes purity. But in many East Asian cultures, it's the color of mourning. Red means luck and prosperity in China, but it's associated with mourning in South Africa. You have to localize your color palettes, guys, or you might accidentally market your next big product using funeral colors. No way you want that. Context also includes the physical age of your audience. As we get older, the lens of the eye naturally yellows. That means a 60-year-old viewer experiences a 50% drop in their ability to perceive blue light compared to a 20-year-old. So that trendy, subtle pastel blue you absolutely love, an older demographic might literally see it as washed out and unreadable. Targeting older demographics means you need warmer tones and significantly higher contrast. All right, let's get into the data in Section 4, Conversions and Platform Rules. Industry context is king for conversions, and the specific lifts here prove it. E-commerce sees a 2.4% lift using orange, combining that urgency with friendliness. SaaS products get a 1.8% lift with blue, signaling competence. And finance, just like we discussed earlier, sees a massive 3.1% lift with dark blue. Matching your psychological trigger to your specific industry objective yields concrete, measurable revenue. It's a real game changer. But remember that isolation effect we talked about? HubSpot ran a famous A/B test, pitting a red button against a green button. The red button won by a whopping 21%. But here is the secret. It didn't win because red is just a universally better converting color than green. It won because the rest of the page design featured a ton of green elements. The red button simply stood out the most. Contrast wins the click every single time. You also can't just copy-paste your perfectly contrasted ad across the entire internet. Platform context matters immensely. On Instagram's bright interface, you need high saturation, vibrant colors to pop. Facebook audiences respond much better to warmer, medium saturation tones. LinkedIn, that requires desaturated, professional blues and grays. Neon over there just looks like spam. But on TikTok, you absolutely need bold, neon, dopamine-triggering colors, or you are going to be scrolled past instantly. If you're wondering how to balance all of this, you can borrow the 60-30-10 rule straight from classic interior design. Make 60% of your design a dominant hue, 30% a secondary color, and reserve 10% for your high-contrast accent color, like your call to action button. It's pretty much a foolproof, tangible method for building a balanced digital palette that guides the user's eye exactly where you want it. And that brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Accessibility and Future Trends. Consider this data for a second. 8% of men and 0.5% of women experience some form of color vision deficiency, most commonly red-green color blindness. If your website relies exclusively on a red error state and a green success state to convey critical information, you are literally alienating hundreds of millions of people globally. You must use color plus shape or color plus text to ensure your message gets through. Honestly, it's just smart, inclusive business. And speaking of smart business, look at the impact of contrast ratios. The web minimum standard is a 4.5 to 1 ratio, but the 2026 data shows that if you push your text to background contrast to 7 to 1, you don't just achieve basic compliance, you actively boost your bottom line. Exceeding the minimum yields 23% better readability and a 15% higher conversion rate. High contrast helps everyone, especially mobile users who might be viewing your site in bright sunlight. So where are aesthetics heading for the rest of 2026? We're seeing two dominant, contrasting trends right now. On one side, we have dopamine colors, these intensely saturated, joyful hues like electric pinks and bright yellows designed to trigger immediate pleasure and optimism. On the flip side, we have a massive shift toward earth tones, sophisticated, modern browns, tans, and olives that authentically signal environmental sustainability and calm. I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful thought from the team at Material Design. There are no wrong colors. What matters most is how to use them. I feel like it perfectly summarizes everything we've covered today. Stop looking for a magic, universally perfect color to boost your conversions. It simply doesn't exist. Instead, ask yourself, who is my audience? What is their cultural context? What platform am I on? And how can I use contrast to my advantage? Based on the neuroscience we just went over, is your brand's current color palette actually helping you convert, or is it secretly driving your customers away? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.